Welcome to Justice Insight Cam. We showcase raw bodycam recordings of actual law enforcement stops. Beyond the dramatic footage, we carefully interpret the law, the factual reality, and the profound lessons hidden in plain sight. Let's focus on the pursuit of justice.
Stop. Hands on your head, now.
I'm on official orders. I can show my military ID.
Don't reach. You're being detained.
He fits the description.
Sir, stop. Put your hands on your head. Now. The airport concourse is already tense when the command rings out. An overhead announcement repeats itself in a calm, synthetic voice. Something about security procedures and please remain where you are, while travelers freeze mid-step with rolling suitcases and paper cups. Near Gate C-12, a man in a navy pea coat is pressed against a pillar of glass and brushed aluminum. His boarding pass flutters to the floor. His palms are open, fingers spread, like he's trying to prove he has nothing in them. "I'm traveling on official orders," he says. His voice is steady, controlled, almost too calm for the scene. "I can show you my military identification." A young officer doesn't even look at the badge wallet in the man's hand. "Don't reach!" the officer snaps, louder. "You fit the description. You're being detained." Another officer steps behind the man and clicks handcuffs shut with a sound that cuts through the airport noise like a door locking. And then, as a small crowd begins to form, phones rising, whispers spreading, someone says the sentence that will follow this city for months. "We stopped him because he looked Spanish," a voice mutters, impatient, as if that explains everything. It doesn't. Not when the suspect is a veteran US Navy officer with more service ribbons than the officers have years on the job. Not when the detention happens during an airport alert, with cameras everywhere and fear on a hair trigger. And definitely not when the lawsuit ends with a $12.7 million settlement that makes the city's finance director stare at a spreadsheet like it's bleeding. Because by the time the city writes that check, the question won't be whether the officers meant to be racist. The question will be why a badge, an ID, and a lifetime of service were all useless in the moment that mattered most. To protect privacy, names, locations, and some details are reconstructed. This is a fictionalized composite inspired by recurring patterns described in civil rights litigation involving airport detentions and discriminatory profiling. His name is Captain Rafael Vega. 49 years old, 2 decades in the Navy, the kind of officer who has been deployed enough times that he no longer talks about it at dinner. He speaks in measured sentences, listens more than he talks, and carries himself like someone who learned early that composure can be armor. Rafael is also Latino, Puerto Rican heritage, a Spanish surname, bilingual, the kind of man who can switch between English and Spanish without thinking about it. In his neighborhood growing up, that was normal. In certain spaces now, it becomes a spotlight. On the morning the airport went into alert status, Rafael wasn't thinking about any of that. He was thinking about time. He had a 10:05 a.m. flight out of Harbor City International. He was headed to a defense conference where he was scheduled to speak on something painfully boring and absolutely essential: logistics readiness. The quiet machinery that keeps ships supplied, crews fed, schedules intact. He'd slept 3 hours, packed in the dark, kissed his wife on the forehead, and driven himself to the airport because he didn't want her to wake up. He checked in at 8:12 a.m. He cleared the regular security line with the bored efficiency of someone who's done it too many times. Laptop out, shoes on, belt through, smile politely, move. At 8:41 a.m., he texted his executive officer, "Through security, boarding in an hour." At 8:46, the tone of the airport changed. It wasn't a siren, not exactly. It was a ripple. A security officer jogging past, a gate agent pausing mid-sentence, a cluster of airport police moving quickly, heads tilted toward radios. Then the overhead voice came on, calm and firm. "Attention passengers. Due to a security situation, please remain in the terminal. Follow instructions from airport personnel." A security situation. 2 words that make everyone's imagination sprint. Raphael stopped near a coffee kiosk and looked up at the monitors. His gate still showed "on time." People around him started whispering. Some pulled children closer. Some checked phones like phones could explain it. Raphael didn't panic, not because he was fearless, because he'd learned the difference between panic and action. You wait, you watch, you don't become the problem. A woman beside him said, "Is it a bomb?" A man answered, "It's probably nothing." And a third person, voice low, urgent, said, "They're looking for someone." That's when Raphael felt the first prickle of something he couldn't name yet. Not fear, recognition. Because looking for someone in a crowded space rarely means a specific person. It usually means a description, and descriptions, when they're vague, become dangerous. The airport alert had begun with a call from a private contractor, one of those third-party security companies that airports hire to monitor cameras and patrol hallways. A supervisor saw a man drop a backpack near a service corridor and walk away. In the footage, the man's face was partially obscured by a hood. The supervisor called airport police. "Possible unattended bag," he reported. "Male subject, medium height, dark jacket, possibly Hispanic, headed toward Concourse C." Possibly Hispanic. That phrase did what it always does. It widened the net until it became a net for anyone who could be forced into the category. Airport police escalated to a terminal-wide alert. They began stopping people near Concourse C who matched the general description. Officers were told to be proactive, to prevent the worst-case scenario, to act first. And when you tell human beings to act first, you're also telling them to guess. Officer Tyler Boone was 26 and 6 months out of the academy. He'd requested airport assignment because it sounded safer than street patrol. He liked the idea of structure, fixed perimeters, cameras, clear protocols. But on that morning, structure was exactly what broke. Tyler's radio crackled with updates that came too fast. Unattended bag. Subject moving. Possible threat. Concourse C lockdown procedures. His sergeant, Marla Dunn, was walking fast enough that Tyler had to half-jog to keep up. Dunn had 15 years on the job and a reputation for getting control. She was the kind of supervisor who believed hesitation was weakness. As they moved through the concourse, Dunn pointed. "See him?" she asked. So Tyler followed her line of sight. Raphael stood near the coffee kiosk, hands in his pockets, head turned toward an overhead monitor, like half the people in the terminal. But Raphael's coat was dark, his hair was dark, his face, under the harsh airport lights, read Hispanic to someone who was already primed to see a suspect. Dunn didn't slow down. "That's him," she said. Tyler's stomach tightened. "How do you know?" he asked. Dunn didn't answer the question. She gave the order that matters more than logic. "Move!" she snapped. They approached Raphael from behind and to the side. 2 angles, blocking movement. A third officer, Officer Kemp, came in from the front. Raphael noticed them a half-second before they spoke. He turned instinctively, eyes scanning faces, reading posture. He saw the vests. He saw the hands near belts. He saw the speed. And he did what he had trained recruits to do when approaching uncertain situations. Keep your hands visible. He lowered his coffee cup to the counter and lifted both hands slightly. "Morning," he said. Sergeant Dunn didn't return the greeting. "Sir," she said, sharp. "Step away from the bag." Raphael blinked. "What bag?" he asked. "Don't play dumb," Dunn snapped. "Hands on your head." The phrase, "don't play dumb," landed like a verdict. It told Raphael something important in a single second. They had already decided. He inhaled, slow. "Sergeant," he said, keeping his voice even, "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm traveling. I have identification." "On your head," Dunn repeated. Raphael complied. His hands rose and interlaced behind his head, elbows out, a posture he knew too well, because he'd watched too many civilians forced into it. People around them started filming. A woman stepped back with her child. Someone whispered, "What's happening?" Tyler moved closer, eyes on Raphael's hands like hands could tell him who a person was. Raphael spoke again, calmer than the scene deserved. "I'm Captain Raphael Vega, United States Navy," he said. "If you tell me what you need, I can show you credentials." Dunn's eyes flicked over him. "Captain," she repeated, skeptical. "Sure." Raphael felt the sting of that word. Sure. The same word he'd heard in other contexts, other spaces, other moments where someone looked at him and decided his title was impossible. Officer Kemp stepped in. "Wallet," Kemp demanded. Raphael's hands were still behind his head. "My wallet is in my left pocket," Raphael said. "May I retrieve it slowly?" Dunn's jaw tightened. "Do not move," she ordered. Raphael held still, elbows burning. "Then you retrieve it," he said. Kemp reached into Raphael's pocket and pulled out a leather wallet. He flipped it open quickly, scanning a driver's license and a TSA pre-check card. Hispanic name, local address, not the clarity they wanted. Kemp found Raphael's military ID behind the license, common access card, the kind used for base access and official travel. He held it up. "This could be fake," Kemp muttered. Raphael's eyes widened slightly. "It's not," Raphael said. "You can verify it." Dunn didn't take the card. She didn't look at it long enough to even pretend she was verifying. "Turn around," she ordered. Raphael froze. "What?" he asked. "Turn around," Dunn repeated. "Hands behind your back." "Sergeant," Raphael said, voice tighter now, "I have done nothing wrong. You have my identification. You can—" Dunn stepped forward. "You match the description and you're not cooperating," she said. "Not cooperating." Raphael almost laughed, but what came out was a short breath. "I'm standing still," he said. "My hands are on my head." Dunn nodded once, like she was done with the conversation. "Kemp," she said. "Cuff him." The metal clicked shut, and somewhere behind them, a bystander's phone captured Dunn's next words, low and irritated, meant for officers only. "He looks Spanish. That's what they said." That's what they said. As if they were the Constitution. Raphael was walked, cuffed, through the terminal toward a glass-walled security office. Every step felt louder than it should, because humiliation has volume even when the room is quiet. People stared, some with curiosity, some with discomfort, a few with the look that says, "He must have done something." Raphael kept his chin level, not out of pride, out of survival. Inside the office, Dunn positioned Raphael in a chair and told him to sit. Raphael sat, wrists tight in cuffs, feeling the plastic edge of the armrest press into his forearms. A camera in the corner blinked red. Dunn spoke into a radio. "Detained male subject," she said, "claiming military, Hispanic, dark coat, concourse, C, bringing him in." Claiming, not identified. Claiming. Tyler stood near the door, watching, trying to keep his breathing steady. He was still new enough to feel the heat of adrenaline, as if it were proof he was doing his job. Raphael looked at him. "One officer," Raphael said quietly. "Your sergeant has my CAC. You can call the number on the back. You can call my command duty officer. I can provide—" Dunn cut in. "You don't get to run the show," she snapped. Raphael's jaw tightened. I'm not, he said. I'm asking you to verify. That's your job. Dunn leaned in. You're in an airport alert, she said. My job is to stop threats. And your job is to distinguish threats from travelers, Raphael replied. For a moment, Dunn's eyes flashed. Then she turned to Tyler. Search his bag, she ordered. Raphael's laptop bag was placed on the table. Tyler opened it with gloved hands. Laptop, notebook, a folded set of travel orders, a navy briefing folder with a seal. Tyler paused at the seal. What is this? He asked, more to himself than to anyone. Raphael answered, calm, steady. Official orders, he said. I'm traveling for work. Dunn snatched the orders and scanned them quickly. Her expression tightened as she saw letterhead and signatures. She didn't apologize. She didn't uncuff him. She reached for her phone. Dispatch, she said. Run the name. Raphael felt something shift in his chest, not relief, because the fact that she was only now running his name meant one thing. The cuffs had come before verification, and that order matters. Outside, the airport alert continued. A second team located the unattended backpack near the service corridor. They evacuated a small section and called in bomb technicians. The backpack turned out to be exactly what it looked like. Someone's forgotten gym bag, abandoned by an exhausted traveler who had sprinted to catch a flight. A mistake. But in the time it took to discover that, Raphael sat cuffed in a security office while officers treated his identity like an inconvenience. The bomb tech cleared the bag. The alert de-escalated. The overhead voice shifted back to normal operations. Flights resumed, and still, Raphael remained detained. Because systems, once in motion, don't stop easily, not without someone deciding to stop them. Captain Vega's command did not know he was detained until 9:22 a.m., when he missed a scheduled conference call and failed to respond to a text. His executive officer called again. No response. His wife called. No response. At 9:35, the XO contacted the base duty officer. Within minutes, the duty officer initiated an accountability check. Because in the Navy, a missing officer is not a casual thing. It is a problem. And problems get traced. By 9:58, a Navy liaison officer, Commander Leah Porter, was calling the airport police desk. Commander Porter, she said, voice crisp. I'm trying to locate Captain Raphael Vega. He's traveling on official orders. We believe he's at your airport. The desk officer sounded confused. We have a detained subject claiming Navy, he said. Porter's voice sharpened. Claiming, she repeated. Put me on with the supervisor. In the security office, Dunn's phone buzzed. She answered, listened, and her posture changed slightly. Not fear, but awareness. She turned to Raphael, eyes narrowed. Your people are calling, she said, like it was an accusation. Raphael stared at her. They're not my people, he said quietly. They're the Navy. And they're verifying what you should have verified before you cuffed me. Dunn's jaw flexed. She stepped out of the room to take the call privately. Tyler stood in the doorway, silent, as if hoping silence would make him invisible. Raphael looked down at his wrists. Red marks were already forming where the cuffs had pressed. He thought about the number of times he had stood on the other side of a detention. Military police on a base. An incident involving a drunk sailor. A heated argument on a pier. He had always insisted on one thing. Respect first, verification first, de-escalation first, because authority without restraint becomes brutality faster than anyone wants to admit. He wondered in a distant part of his mind how this would look on video. Then he heard the voices outside the glass. Angry, confused. A man shouting, "Hi, you can't just grab people." A woman saying, "He said he's Navy." The story was already spreading. When Dunn returned, she uncuffed Raphael without looking at his face. "Stand up," she said. Raphael stood, wrists aching. Dunn spoke quickly now, as if speed could rewind time. "There was an alert," she said. "You matched the description. It's resolved." Raphael held her gaze. "Resolved," he repeated. "I was cuffed in public." Dunn shrugged slightly, a defensive reflex. "Airport security," she said. Raphael didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. "Sergeant," he said, "you detained me because I looked Spanish. That's what you said. That's what your officer said." Dunn's eyes flashed. "I did not say that," she snapped. Raphael nodded toward the corner camera. "Then the camera will clarify," he said. Dunn's shoulders tightened. "You're free to go," she said, and she said it like a door closing. Raphael picked up his laptop bag. He picked up his boarding pass from the floor. He glanced at the clock, 10:07 a.m. His flight had already boarded. He had missed it, because a vague description and a racial assumption had been treated as enough to steal his time, his dignity, and his freedom. Temporarily, yes, but long enough to matter. Raphael walked back into the concourse like someone returning to a scene that had already taken something from him. His gate monitor now read, "Departed." He approached the desk anyway. The gate agent glanced at his boarding pass, then at the red marks on his wrists where his sleeves had ridden up. "Doors closed," she said, automatic. "I was detained," Raphael replied, voice even. "You're airport police. I need to be rebooked, and I need documentation." Documentation? After being stopped for papers, now he needed paper to prove he'd been stopped. She typed, offered standby, and printed a slip that felt absurdly small compared to what he'd just lived through. As he stepped aside, a man in a baseball cap approached with a phone still in hand. "Sir," the man said quietly, "I filmed that. I didn't know who you were, but it looked wrong." Raphael held his gaze for a beat. "Send it to me," Raphael said. The man nodded. "Yeah, of course." Raphael took the number the way he'd taken names and badge numbers, carefully, because he'd already learned the morning's lesson. If you don't collect the record, someone else will write it for you. By noon, Raphael was joining his conference by video from an airport chair, in collar still slightly crooked, eyes steady while his body felt anything but. When the session ended, his phone lit up. His command, his wife, a JAG officer. A text from his executive officer came through in 3 words that weren't official, just human. "Are you okay?" Raphael stared at the screen, then typed the only honest answer. "Number." Back at airport police headquarters, Sergeant Dunn was already shaping her narrative. The airport alert gave her a shield. High-threat environment. Rapidly evolving situation. Officer safety. But the problem with shields is that cameras see around them. Chief Darren Mays watched the footage in his office with the blinds half closed. He watched Dunn label Raphael "our guy" before anyone asked a name. He watched the CAC appear. He watched cuffs go on anyway. Then he watched the bystander clip, shaky, soy grainy, but with audio that was painfully clean. He looked Spanish, that's what they said. Mays didn't need a lawyer to tell him what a jury would hear in that sentence. Not a mistake, a habit. Officer Tyler Boone watched his own body cam that night in his apartment, replaying the moment he'd followed Dunn's lead. He saw Raphael's hands go up instantly. He heard the calm request to verify. He heard the word Spanish, like a pin dropping. Tyler had joined the job to keep people safe. In that footage, he didn't look like safety. He looked like momentum. By the end of the week, Tyler requested a meeting with Internal Affairs. He didn't use big words. He called it a protocol failure. But when the investigator asked why cuffs were applied before verification, Tyler's voice tightened. Because we assumed, he admitted, assumed that was the crack the case would later widen into a split. What happened next is what makes this story shake a city, because Captain Vega did not let it fade. He filed a complaint that afternoon, detailed and factual. Timestamps, names, badge numbers, exact phrases. He requested preservation of body camera footage, security office camera footage, dispatch audio, and the airport alert incident report. The city responded the way cities often respond at first, with language. We take all allegations seriously. We will review the matter. We regret any inconvenience. Inconvenience. Raphael read that word and felt something cold settle, because inconvenience is what you call a delayed flight. It is not what you call being cuffed because you look Spanish. So Raphael did what people do when they realize internal processes are designed to cool outrage. He hired counsel. His attorney, Sofia Marquez, was not loud. She didn't need to be. She built cases the way forensic accountants build timelines, patiently, relentlessly, with records that don't care about anyone's feelings. The lawsuit alleged unlawful detention, discrimination, and abuse of authority under the cover of an airport alert. The city's first defense was predictable. Split-second decision. High-threat environment. Good faith. They argued officers acted on a description. They argued the alert required speed. They argued they released him quickly. Marquez responded with one question that sounds simple until you hear it in court. Why were cuffs applied before identity verification? She asked. The city tried to explain it away. Officer safety. Marquez nodded. Officer safety does not eliminate constitutional requirements, she said. And officer safety does not turn ethnicity into probable cause. Then she asked for discovery. And discovery is where stories die and facts survive. The body camera footage was worse than the city expected. It showed Dunn saying, "He's our guy," before anyone asked a name. It showed Raphael's hands going up immediately. It showed his calm request to retrieve identification. It showed the CAC in an officer's hand. It showed Dunn ordering cuffs anyway. And in the background, caught clearly enough to make a jury feel it, was the line, "He looks Spanish." That's what they said. That line did two things at once. It explained the bias, and it showed the bias was shared like common sense, not an accident, a habit. The dispatch audio didn't help the city either. The original call from the contractor used the word possibly Hispanic. Dispatch repeated it. Officers repeated it. And somewhere in that chain, possibly became definitely. The city tried to argue it was a descriptor, not a motive. Marquez didn't argue feelings. She showed patterns. She requested stop and frisk records at the airport for the past 18 months. She requested complaints involving profiling. She requested training logs. And that's where the twist arrived. Not in a dramatic moment, in a policy memo. A document from the airport police unit, circulated after a prior security scare, either emphasizing proactive interdiction and heightened attention to foreign language indicators. Foreign language indicators. On paper, that might mean someone speaking about a threat. In practice, it meant something uglier. It meant people who sound or look foreign. It meant Spanish speakers. It meant Raphael. And when that memo surfaced, the case stopped being about one bad stop. It became about culture. There was another twist, even more damaging. During deposition, Tyler Boone admitted something that should have ended the detention immediately. He said he recognized the CAC as legitimate. He said he knew it could be verified quickly, and he said, under oath, that he suggested to Dunn, "Maybe we should confirm before cuffs." Marquez asked him what Dunn said. Tyler hesitated. Then he answered. She said, we can't take chances. If he's lying, he'll bolt." Marquez let the silence stretch. "And did Captain Vega bolt?" she asked. "No," Tyler said quietly. He stood still. That answer mattered because it exposed the logic underneath the stop. It wasn't about what Raphael did. It was about what officers imagined he might do. And imagination, when it's racialized, becomes a weapon. The city fought the case publicly while negotiating privately, because that's what cities do when the risk calculation changes. A jury watching a decorated Navy captain cuffed in an airport on video was not a comfortable picture, especially when the airport alert was resolved as a forgotten gym bag. The city's insurer began to ask questions. The city council began to ask questions. The mayor's office began to ask the worst question: how much is this going to cost? Not, how do we fix it? How much? Money is the language institutions speak when their reputation is on trial. At mediation, the conference room was cold and neutral, designed to make emotion feel inappropriate. On one side sat Raphael, Marquez, and a Navy liaison in civilian clothes. On the other sat city attorneys, an insurance representative, and the airport police chief, Chief Darren Mays, who looked like a man trying to keep a department from collapsing under its own weight. The mediator began with numbers. The city offered a low figure first. Raphael didn't react. Marquez didn't react. They let the city reveal how badly it wanted the story to disappear. Then Marquez slid a packet across the table, a timeline, footage transcripts, our dispatch logs, the memo, and the list of prior complaints that had been quietly not sustained. Marquez spoke calmly. "This is not just a bad moment," she said. "This is a pattern with a camera on it." Chief Mays cleared his throat. "We are committed to training," he said. Marquez nodded. "Then commit in writing," she replied. The city's lawyer leaned in. "There will be no admission of liability," he said. Marquez nodded again. "No one expects you to admit," she said, "but you will pay, and you will change." The mediator asked what pay meant. Marquez said the number out loud. $12.7 million, she said. The city attorneys blinked. The insurance representative shifted. Chief Mays exhaled slowly, like the air had been punched from him. Because the number wasn't just compensation, it was a message. It was the cost of treating ethnicity as a shortcut. The settlement was reached weeks later, $12.7 million. No admission of wrongdoing, but major reforms attached. Revised airport alert protocols, requiring a higher threshold for detentions based solely on appearance. Mandatory identity verification steps before handcuffing when there is no articulable threat. Clear restrictions on using language, accent, or ethnicity as a proxy for suspicion. Body camera audits. Independent oversight. Public reporting requirements. A policy that required officers to articulate specific behaviors, not vague descriptors, before escalating. The city tried to frame it as moving forward, but the public heard something else. They heard that a city had paid $12.7 million because officers couldn't or wouldn't separate an airport alert from a prejudice. City Hall shook. At the next city council session, the settlement number appeared on a screen in a sterile font, followed by the line item it would pull from: reserves. The finance director explained it in careful terms: bond ratings, insurance deductibles, spending pauses. But the room heard one thing: services would be cut because someone chose a shortcut at an airport. Outside, protesters held signs. Inside, residents asked why their neighborhood library had reduced hours while the city paid millions to cover a few minutes of handcuffs. Budget meetings grew tense. Residents asked why parks were underfunded while lawsuits were overfunded. Activists demanded resignations. Union leaders defended split-second decisions. And Raphael, watching it all, felt a strange mix of vindication and exhaustion. Because vindication doesn't erase humiliation, it just proves you weren't crazy. Months later, Raphael returned to Harbor City International, not because he wanted to relive it, because he refused to let fear own a space that had tried to shrink him. He arrived early. He stood near the same coffee kiosk, the same overhead lights buzzed, the same announcements echoed, the same rolling suitcases clicked across tile. He watched airport police walk by, different faces now, but the same uniforms. One officer glanced at him, then glanced away. Raphael felt his body tighten anyway, the memory living in his muscles. A Navy officer can handle storms at sea. He can handle deployments. He can handle pressure, but the thing that stays is the moment you are treated like a threat for existing. A young traveler beside him whispered into his phone, "Bro, the airport's on alert." Raphael smiled faintly, not at the words, at the familiarity of fear. Then he thought of a question he'd been asked by a reporter after the settlement. "What do you want?" the reporter had asked. Raphael's answer wasn't money, it was simple. "I want them to verify before they violate," he said. Because if you're listening to this, you already know the most dangerous part of the story. It wasn't the forgotten bag, it wasn't the alert, it wasn't even the handcuffs, it was the shortcut. The moment someone decided, he looks Spanish, therefore suspicious. That moment turns law into guesswork. And guesswork in uniform. It becomes power without restraint. So here's the question you should sit with. If you were in that terminal and you saw a calm man in cuffs saying he was a Navy captain, would you have believed him? Or would you have believed the badge that didn't even bother to verify? That's why the settlement mattered. Not because 12.7 million is a big number, though it is. Because it forced a city to admit, in action, if not in words, that profiling has a price. And because it reminded everyone watching that respect isn't optional during an alert. It's essential. Because the next time the airport goes into security situation mode, there will be a moment where an officer wants to guess. And the best hope we have is that someone remembers this case, remembers the camera, remembers the cost, and chooses verification over assumption. And that is how a city stops trembling, not by denying, by changing.
Thank you for watching today's analysis. If you found this information valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to Justice Insight Cam. Stay vigilant, stay secure, and join us for our next detailed report.